What is up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Odd Job Entertainment bringing you another video. And hopefully this one does not end up being 30 minutes like the first take did. So let's try and shorten this down and get started. Destiny 2 is at the same time both the most fun game I've ever played and the most boring. Obviously the gameplay in the background has nothing to do with what we're talking about, so just roll with me. How is it the most fun? Well, pretty simple. It's the raids. The raids are an amazing experience. I think that they're really well done. I enjoy them. I think that they're challenging and just great for in-game content. And I remember my first time doing the Leviathan raid. It took us about 3 hours to get through it. I was a very new player. I had joined the game a little late, and so I was very new, very fresh. And I made plenty of silly mistakes that definitely challenged the patience of the Sherpas that were helping me that day. And let me tell you, the feeling of accomplishment that you get after completing your first raid, it's indescribable. It feels amazing. It is a greater than the sum of its parts level of accomplishment that you get with your friends. And when you finally get to gloat over Callus's dead body and collect your loot, that's a great feeling. However, because of the way that Destiny 2 is designed, you don't actually get to do that all that often. And this is where we start to lead into why Destiny 2 is also the most boring game I've ever played. And a lot of this has to do with the randomized elements that exist in Destiny 2. For example, Black Armory Forge. Great activity. Nice and short, easy to do, easy to understand, kind of challenging. And at the time when it came out, God Roll Blast Furnace was what everyone was working towards. And I got so close to getting it. I had all the perks, and the only difference was the scope was a medium range scope and not the short range scope. As a result, my Blast Furnace has a slightly longer ADS time, and it's a little slower in your hands. Not that big a deal, right? Well, now let's consider bringing that into Crucible, which is the least favorite activity of mine within Destiny 2 for what I'm about to describe. Let's say that I come up against someone who is my equal in skill. Okay, tit for tat, we are exactly the same, except he's got the perfect Blast Furnace. His has the short range scope, which enables him to aim down sight slightly faster, get on target slightly faster, and he's able to kill me slightly faster. Now, what we're talking about is not a difference in skill. It is entirely a difference in luck and time. Okay, the difference between us is while we may be equals in skill, he has significantly more time to invest in Black Armory Forge, or he just got extremely lucky and got the weapon he was looking for. Neither of those scenarios do I have any control over. Compare that with most other FPS games, where it comes down more to the player's skill and not just their luck and time investment. Okay? Like, for example, we've got Battlefield going on in the background. Everybody has access to the same guns. There's nothing secret about the guns. You kit them out the way that you want to. And so I'm able to pick these people off, and it's entirely down to my skill versus their skill, given that we all have access to exactly the same kind of equipment. It's not the case in Destiny because there's so much randomization that happens. So my feeling when I play Crucible is I oftentimes feel like I don't really have a way to compete because I'm definitely a casual player. I don't have the time to invest in grinding endless hours to try and get perfect gear. So inevitably, I'm most of the time going up against people who have better stuff than I do. And that kills the romance of Crucible for me because Crucible is no longer about my skill. It's just the fact that I don't have as much time as they do to invest. And so I feel like I'm up against unfair odds, and that's not very fun. So since Crucible is not a pleasant experience, let's consider the other ways that you get loot in Destiny 2. You have strikes, which We've all done those hundreds of times. It's not exactly a new experience any time now. You've got open world loot, which is always garbage. And in fact, once you get to a respectable light level, no longer helps you advance. You've got exotic quests, which the quests I actually do like, except now that exotics are coming with random rolls, which I don't like. So quests, good step, random stats, bad step. And, that's really just about it. There is the seasonal activities, which, like Black Armory Forge and Menagerie, those can be pretty good experiences. But Menagerie, I think, is the best Destiny has done as far as entertaining players like myself. People who don't have a ton of time to invest, but still want to get respectable loot for a reasonable amount of time. Menagerie allowed you to target farm more specifically than any other activity I can think of that Destiny 2 has had. And I think that was a step in the right direction, but I don't think it was enough in that direction. I would push it even further. Let me target farm exactly down to every single roll what I get out of my gun. And if it required a little more effort in between, like let's say it right now represents a high drop rate, even if it was slightly lower in that I had to do a guaranteed 3 menageries in order to get the drop, as long as I got the stats that I want, that would feel worth it to me. This randomized stuff is what kills the romance for me. We've also got to hit on why Destiny 2 is set up the way that it is. And I think that a big reason is they're trying to keep the player base entertained for large periods of time all at once. So each season they'll release some weapons and there'll be a god roll for that weapon, and they want you to grind and grind and grind and grind until you get the weapon that you want. Okay, I can understand that. But let's look at how some other FPS games have handled stuff like this to keep people entertained for their seasons. Call of Duty Modern Warfare, for example, has a battle pass. Now, Destiny 2 has a battle pass too, but I think if they mimicked something more akin to what Modern Warfare does, I think that they could still have the success that they're looking for, keep people entertained, give them something to grind for, without it feeling like such a heart-wrenching experience every time that they get a crappy drop. So what does Modern Warfare do? Well, if you are a paid member, you can get early access to a specific loadout of the 2 guns that come out per season. If you are a free member, you can easily get the base gun within 5 hours of play, hands down. And then at that point, if you find that it is an enjoyable gun, you can grind out all the other attachments for that gun. So after about a week, everybody's got the new gun, probably, but they've got it kitted out the way that they want, and there's really no difference in advantage between free players and paid players, given that free players can catch up within 5 hours of play. Really not that big of a deal. And then the rest of the battle pass is all cosmetics. It's nothing that gives you a advantage in the game. And you have to think, Modern Warfare has significantly less variety of content, but it clearly has managed to keep people entertained. I mean, Call of Duty has been around since 2003, I think. And so they've obviously had some success with their player base. Battlefield is another FPS, and they have a similar setup to what Call of Duties have done in the past. Let's talk about Battlefield 4 and compare that to Battlefield 5, for example. So Battlefield 4 is what many people would consider the pinnacle of Battlefield entertainment. You had weapon customization out the wazoo. You had a variety of different foregrips, barrel attachments, compensators, barrel types, silencers, scopes, stocks, grips, all that stuff. It was pretty extensive. It was pimp my truck with every single weapon. And what that does is it gives players something to work towards, because if I like the FAMAS, I can get all the attachments for the FAMAS. I can get camos for the FAMAS. I can get all this different stuff. And then my FAMAS is unique to me. Then you go to Battlefield 5. Okay, it's significantly stripped down. You do have specializations, but those don't really count for anything aesthetic. They really don't do that much. And the only cosmetic options that you have are red dot sights and camos. That's it. Sound familiar? Well, that's because it's basically Destiny 2. Battlefield 5 is one of the least popular Battlefield titles, and weapon customization is a big reason behind that. And yet, Destiny 2 gives you the exact same level of customization with their guns. The only difference is they make you think that you have a wider variety of weapon choice because you're able to get randomized loot. What I would suggest to the developers of Destiny, obviously Bungie, is why not add weapon attachments as something that you can grind for? Why not make stats something that you can earn directly as like modules? Like, let's say if I want to get kill clip, I go and do a specific strike, a X number of times, and then I will get a kill clip module that I can slot into compatible weapons. It wouldn't be compatible with every single weapon, but if there is a weapon that can have a kill clip slotted into it, I can get that. And then if I want to add outlaw to that weapon, I go do something similar. Go do X number of crucible matches, and then you'll get a outlaw module that you can slot in. Let me target farm to that kind of specificity, and I'll be a much happier camper. Give me some weapon attachments, or make it so that when I do add these different kinds of modules, it changes the appearance of the weapon. See, Destiny 2 has a hugely inflated list of guns that you can get, but they're not actually that different. I mean, if you really boil it down, you have the archetypes within each type of weapon. You have these 600 RPM assault rifles, and then you have, I think, 750 is the other one. And then everything that matches that archetype performs very similarly, and then it's just a difference in the stats. So they really do not have nearly as many weapons as they lead you to believe. It mostly comes down to what kind of stats they roll with. But if you give players direct control over that, that would keep people like me a lot happier. Because I don't have the time to grind for hundreds of hours trying to get the perfect god roll of a weapon. I just want to come home after work, play some games, chill out with friends, and I want to be able to participate in the raid, which brings me to my next suggestion. I would do away with light levels. The purpose of a light level is it's an arbitrary gatekeeper to keep people that are too low from participating in the in-game content, and it forces them to do the other kinds of activities that the game has to offer. But if I don't enjoy those, it's really just tearing out my fingernails doing those activities until I can do the stuff that I actually want to do. So I would just do away with light level altogether. Have it be like some stat to gloat over, like, oh, look at my light level, I'm so powerful, yada yada. But just leave it at that. And then make it so that I can do raids whenever I want. Don't put these arbitrary limits. Let me just do the activities that I choose to spend my time on. And that, I think, would result in a much better Destiny, at least for people like me. Now, I know that there are going to be a lot of people that disagree, that are going to argue that the grind is what it's all about, and you're just wrong. What can I say? No, actually, if you disagree with me, leave your opinion down in the comments. Let's have a reasonable discussion about what the future of Destiny 2 could be like. And why do I bring all this stuff up right now? Well, Destiny 2 finds itself having to compete now with Halo Infinite at the end of the year and Battlefield 2042 in October. And Destiny 2 has not really innovated that much in all the time that it's been out. I think these are some moves that could help it move in the right direction and attract a larger player base. And let's be honest, the player base is shrinking, and it's not just Activision that has been holding Bungie back. Bungie has been doing plenty of that on its own. I want Destiny 2 to be the game that it was always meant to be, and be as fun as it was for completing the Leviathan raid for the first time. I want it to be like that all the time. I want Destiny 2 to succeed. These are some of my ideas of how that can happen. But you guys know how this goes. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Am I spitting truth? Am I being a prophet? Or am I just a fool and I just don't know what I'm talking about? Let me know. But until next time, this is Odd Job Entertainment, signing off.